on nostalgic movie review.
Nerdy.
Aaron, man.
Rumble.
We are new nostalgic movie reviews. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time. I am David,
I'm Steven.
and this week we are looking at an original versus remake.
Yes.
We are looking at Hellboy from 2004 and Hellboy from 2019.
We're doing two more movies with the exact same title again. It's kind of funny when they have the exact same title over and over
I
again.
hate that. I understand in this instance why they did that, because the new Hellboy is not a sequel to the original
Yeah.
two movies. So that makes
But
sense.
even
But
giving
when
it
it's
like a different like sub name would have made it different.
Hellboy, the new one. You know, something.
David Arbor.
So I guess let's get into the movies themselves.
Yeah, so the first Hellboy came out in 2004. It was PG-13. It was 2 hours and 2 minutes long. The synopsis is: a demon raised from infancy after being conjured by and rescued from the Nazis grows up to become a defender against the forces of darkness. This movie is starring Ron Perlman, Doug Jones, Selma Blair, John Hurt, Rupert Evans, and a few other ones. Jeffrey Tambor is another main one, and a few other of the like bad guys and stuff. But I won't get into too much of the other cast. It was mainly just those casts. Really, really impressive casting choices, especially with Ron Perlman, and I love John Hurt.
yeah. Oh, he's amazing.
I don't know, like for me, when I was watching this movie again, I've been rewatching the show Merlin with my wife recently, and John Hurt's the voice of the dragon, and so when he started speaking, I was like, "Oh my god, that's the dragon! Dragon!" But this is also another Guillermo del Toro movie. I talked about how in the Book of Life episode we had two Guillermo del Toro movies this month. I was so excited for it. Guillermo del Toro is one of my favorite directors of all time. He is just one of the best for prosthetics and animatronics and stuff.
A lot of good character design.
Yeah, a lot of good character design. He's one of the most visually amazing representations in filmography.
And then the new Hellboy. It's a 2019 film. I think I mentioned it's rated R and it's 2 hours. Synopsis says: caught between the worlds of the supernatural and the human world, Hellboy battles an ancient sorceress bent on revenge. And this cast, we got David Harbour as Hellboy. We got Mila Jovovich. We got Ian McShane, Sasha Lane, and Mark Stanley for a few interesting actors.
I'm gonna say this right now. Mia Jovovich, stop doing adaptations of any material. Don't do any comic books. Don't do any video games. She is cursed to be in all bad adaptations.
I enjoyed her in this movie.
I hate it. Like, her character was
Mila
so
did a
dumb.
good job.
I think she did okay with
The
what she was
character
given.
itself.
The character is awful.
Well, the character wasn't really given much to do.
She's Enchantress from Suicide Squad, and just as bad. Like, I don't think that...
I'd say she's better than Suicide Squad. I'm sorry, but
I don't. I don't think she was. I think she did just as good a job as Cara Delevingne did in that, with just horribly written characters, horribly written villains. Didn't make a lot of sense. Just, I didn't like the story of it. I really did not like the villain in the new one.
yeah. So that's the new Hellboy. We'll see you next week. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
So I guess how'd you feel about the original?
The original is something I love both of those movies, but we're mainly talking about the first one today. But I love just Ron Perlman is Hellboy to me. He's one of those people that just when he did the role, he does it so perfectly. I don't see many others being able to do it very well. I think the way that they did Hellboy and the way they represented them and the way they represented like Abe and some of the other characters was so perfect in this movie, and the comedy and the character development and the feels of all the character was just so perfect to me. Whereas the new one, it didn't feel like the characters like had a lot of like good interactions with each other. A lot of the comedy felt really flat. I didn't think David Harbour did good at all. I thought he looked okay as the part. I thought the design of him was okay. But I don't think, like, most of the comedy he said, I didn't laugh at one bit. It was bad dad jokes that weren't even ones that I could snicker at. It was like, oh my God, why?
I think David Harbour did just like we said about Mila. David Harbour, I think, did a good job for what he was given. I think he does make a good Hellboy. He looks the part. He does. The makeup job they did was actually really like surprising. I do feel bad for like Ron Perlman because he looked amazing, but there are points in the original where like there's the prosthetics around his mouth where it looks like Ron is having a hard time moving his lips.
Mm.
Uh, which they didn't have that issue with David. But I mean, on top of that, I do think Hellboy in the new one, he was good for, yeah, like I said, what he was given. But some of the lines and actions he did just didn't land at all. Like some of the jokes, and then there are points where I guess maybe it's for comedy or emotion. I'm not sure what,
Yeah.
but Hellboy will like yell something, and when
Yeah.
he's yelling, it just doesn't feel like the character should be
Oh
yelling
yeah.
like that. He
Well,
seems whiny
and when
almost.
Ron Perlman yells and stuff, it's like you can feel everyone like, oh shit, he's at it again. He's doing his normal thing, and it's like it's actual good character interactions with each other with it. Whereas when David Harbour does it, no one reacts to anything he does. They're just like they just sit there and like, yep, okay,
Well, and
cool.
Ron Perlman rarely yells as that
Hmm.
character. Where and so I feel like it's more powerful when he does it. But then when like David Harbour, over half of his lines seem like they're yelling, and
Yeah.
it doesn't
Well,
feel right.
and the other thing for me is in the original, they talk about how Hellboy's 60, 70 plus years old or whatever he is, but in the way that his physiology is, he's more like a young 20-year-old. So he acts
He was
like,
barely out of his 30s, so he's a young 30-year-old.
or yeah, whatever it was, but he's still like young for his age and still acts really young and still does a lot of very young things and hasn't really been around the world to know a lot of responsibility and still has a lot of very like childlike mentalities. And you can see that in the way he acts and the way he performs and the way he says his lines. Whereas in this one, he seems like he's just an angsty teenager that's just being angsty to be angsty and it's not actually like feeling those ways. And it's so bad. Like the fights that he has with his dad, the interactions with his father in this, I don't even feel like they liked each other, loved each other, ever cared about
In the
it
new
in the
one,
new
right?
one.
Yeah.
The old one, oh my god, the connections between the characters, like even the connections with like him and Abe, of them like having those like bonding moments, and
They play off each other well in the
it's
original.
so good. And like speaking of visuals though, the one thing that I have to say is I actually really did not like most of the looks for the new one at all. Like for me, he looks like a Thanos as a Hell's Angel. He had that just giant broad face that looked almost identical to Thanos's face, and they just made him look like a biker. Like they had him in like the black leather. Like I don't know. Like I liked the outfit more, like the John Constantine kind of outfit vibes of the original more
I
than the like Hell's Angel kind of angry teenager vibe that they gave the new one. Like I really just did not like a lot of the.
I feel like visually they were wearing practically the same thing. Black pants and boots, shirtless, and a brown trench coat. They're basically wearing the same
Well, there's
thing.
times where he's wearing like a black tank top in the new one, like a black wife beater, if I remember right. I did not like the way it looked. Like there was something about it that just was off to me. Like a lot of this remake felt off. Like it didn't have any of the same charm and appeal and effects that the original had, and I didn't care for the characters in the new one at all. I didn't care for any of their connections between each other. I didn't feel like any of them actually like wanted to help each other, protect each other. I felt like everyone was all fighting for fighting's sake.
Well, I think Hellboy and that girl, forget her name, they had some pretty good chemistry, and I feel like they cared about each other. The girl that can like see ghosts and stuff, and she's like a medium.
Well, that was
Was it
even
Alice? That's her name.
well, and one of the things that I think is interesting is the new one actually has more ties to the comics than the original movie does, where it actually brings up like his lineage, which at first I was drawn by like thrown for a loop because I didn't know he was connected to King Arthur at all. And so at the beginning of the movie, when they're talking about King Arthur's lineage and King
Like,
Arthur and
why
Merlin
King
being in
Arthur?
this and like the Blood Witch and stuff, I thought I was like, oh, the intro is kind of cool, but what the fuck? Like, why are you tying him to him being King Arthur's long lost descendant son? Like mixed between his mother was a descendant of Arthur and his father was Azazel. And how did that happen? Like
Well, As far as visually, like I do think the original had better visuals. There were a lot more practical effects, so I
Yeah,
think that made it feel more real.
yeah,
Uh, the CGI in both of them are good in some parts and bad in some parts. I think the new one, I mean, of course, it had updated CGI. It's a newer movie, and I think some of the designs were really cool. A lot of the creatures at the end that came out of the ground looked really neat. I liked the design of the trolls during the three troll scene. Uh, but on top of that, some of the CGI looked kind of wonky. Like in both movies, baby
yeah,
Hellboy coming out of the portal doesn't look good in either of them. They
yeah.
look like they're the same character model, but the CGI just looks a little janky. Or like in the original, there's the part where Hellboy crushes the Red Bull can, and
Oh,
the animation of the his big right hand looks funky. But visually, I think both movies have positives and negatives. I do think the original looks way better.
I think
The original has a lot more color in it too, which I
it
enjoyed.
does.
But
And the original, like the violence was shown more. A lot of times the violence in the new one was off screen. So they would start fighting and then you would see blood splatter on a wall, but you wouldn't actually see the punch that landed to have that blood splatter. Like there was some
did you blink at the wrong time or
in some of the fight
okay?
scenes. I'm not saying
I
all of
I
them.
know.
I'm saying
I'm
but
like,
like there are
what scenes are you talking about? There's like one or two, but I get it. I
there,
get it.
there is a couple of scenes where the violence isn't happening on the screen. Like the fight choreography in the original was so much better than the remake as well.
Yeah,
And like the motivations for the villains were so much better than the original as well. And I think that's also what makes it better. Because
absolutely.
like the round table people that tried to bring him to their land to help fight giants and lure him in by trying to fight giants in the new one and they bring him out there and they say, "Oh, we knew your dad. Oh, your dad used to kill giants with us. Blah 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 blah. Come with us. There's three giants." They go out into an actual place with actual giants that actually want to kill them and try to kill Hellboy there instead of just taking him to a place that doesn't have giants and lie to him about giants and then just kill him. So they have this ex machina of the giants killing the people which is just so dumb because I'm like, you actually are fighting him where there's actual giants? Are you that dumb? You're trying to kill the person that's supposed to bring the apocalypse and have all this righteous views against him, but you just like, let's actually fight him here. Let's fight him in the most dangerous place where we're gonna get killed because we've been hunting these beasts for 100 years.
Yeah, they probably should have killed him like on the way there instead of after they actually get
Or in the
there. But
house. They had him in the house already.
they could have done it in the house. I agree. I
Like
think
there's
that
so many other places they could have done that.
they had to do a convoluted plot to make, I guess, I don't know. They were trying to trick Hellboy. It was really stupid. I
Yeah.
completely agree. Uh, as far as the violence in the new one, I do think sometimes it was violence for the sake of being violent. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's R rated now. Let's show all the blood.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it was really cool, and then sometimes I'm like, it's just
Well, and like
why the scenes don't need to be there sometimes.
I'll say some good things about the new one. I really like the design of Baba Yaga. I thought Baba Yaga was amazing. I thought the way she looked was amazing. I thought the way she acted was amazing. I thought she was a little too flippy floppy of I want to do everything I can to kill Hellboy. And then as soon as Hellboy gets there, it's like, well, give me one of your eyes and I'll help you. And I'm like, what? That was a flip and a half.
I think she's playing both sides.
Yeah, I love the design of Camazotz at the beginning in that Mexican wrestling fight. I love the emotion, like all of the stuff in that original, like couple scenes, fantastic. Then they lose so much throughout the rest of the movie.
I think the character designs of the Blood Queen and the pig guy are cool
The pig guy is.
visually.
I hate Mijokovic every way. I think
Mila Jovovich.
Jovovich, sorry. I hate all of the Blood Witches stuff. I hate the way she looked. I hate the having to piece her back together.
Oh, I thought that was so creative.
It's so
It
dumb,
was so
especially when she has three of her pieces. She's got like her torso, a hand, and one leg, and her head. And she's sitting there on the couch, and she's just watching reality TV. And then she's just complaining about, oh my god, this is what the world is now. Just people being stupid for money and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, really, we're gonna have another character that has been dead for hundreds of years come back to life and watch reality TV, and that's their vision of the world and why they want to kill the world is because of reality TV.
Well,
That
I
is
mean,
so dumb.
she already wanted to kill the world. That was just giving her more reason, I guess.
Why? I don't ever see a witch that comes back 200 years from the past want to sit down and watch TV.
Well, She kind of had to. She was still in pieces.
She didn't have to watch TV. She could have read books. She would have gone right to reading the Necronomicon or something. She would want to read some like ancient text of ancient spells or learn how to get power faster or do this or that or help try to find the body. I wouldn't think that she would just sit there and be like, let's watch American TV.
Well, honestly, that didn't really bother me as much. I think it is frustrating that she's the main villain of the story, but she is. You don't really learn much about her at all, except that she wants to end the world and have all demons rule the world. Whereas, like, the pig guy actually has character development, and I was more interested in his story than the queen's. That's because we really didn't learn
But
anything about the
even
queen.
his motivations are really stupid. Where his motivations are, you found out that I was imitating a young girl and I was going to be that young girl for the rest of my life. And you stopped me from being happy and having that family and living with that young family. So now my entire life is to try to ruin your life. And I'm going to react, like, get
Well,
this witch to come back to life so that she can make me powerful enough to kill you.
well, I agree with you, but also try to look at it from his perspective. So his species, the only thing they know about life is what they do. They take the place of a human in real world
Yeah.
so that they can live a life.
Yeah.
So by Hellboy taking that away from him, he wasn't able to live his purpose in life. So he decided he wanted revenge.
But the way about him going to get revenge isn't even secured. It's he has to convince this witch that he brings back to life to give him the powers or to give rid of Hellboy himself. He doesn't do anything to make himself more powerful or to do this or that. And I just don't like the way that the motivation for it just doesn't seem like it matches well enough.
I think the motivation was well done. I think the execution wasn't.
Possibly that's what it
He
was.
definitely could have done something else to take care of Hellboy.
Yeah.
He went the most roundabout way to get a smidgen of power
Well,
just to
and
be able to
waited
fight
so
him.
long to do it.
And yeah, I think that's really dumb.
Like that's
But
the other thing for me is I hate when they give these motivations for characters when they're like 6 years old and then don't have them act on it for 70 years. It's like if you were that angry about it, why didn't you do something throughout that entire span? Why did you wait till now to do it?
it's a good question. Sometimes patience is a virtue, my friend.
Like, I agree, but
Uh,
not for this.
but yeah, back to the original movie. I think a lot of the characters in that movie are really well done. Minus a few. I don't think John's character was necessary at all.
He's not.
He's a blank slate character that is only in the movie for people to shout exposition at him.
Well, and
That's the only point.
the thing I don't like about him is I really don't like that kind of like forced kind of romance that he tries to have with some of Blair's character Liz. Like
Well,
it's so weird and
the
it's
like especially the date scene. The date scene I purely believe is only there because they want to have a scene where they're making Hellboy jealous.
yeah.
There's no other point to that.
Well,
It's
and then when they actually
forced.
are going into like the last battle part of it, and they're all separated, and he's like, "Well, how do you feel about me?" And she's like, "Are you really gonna ask me that right here?" And I love that reaction because it felt so real. Like, why are you doing this here? Are you dumb? And then Hellboy being within earshot to hear that conversation to get even more jealous again. I'm like, you are trying to create jealousy out of nothing.
Well, I also I agree with you that I like that reaction from Liz because that reaction actually had some feeling behind
Oh
it.
yeah,
Uh, that being said, I think Liz the character is weird and also
yeah,
she's very boring and flat as a personality.
she is.
Like there are times where she's talking and I was like, wow, I almost fell asleep while you were saying something because she is just so flat in her delivery.
Yeah.
I really love that movie, but I've never really been a huge fan of her character in that movie.
No, for me, it's always been Hellboy and Abe.
Yeah,
Abe is
Hellboy and Abe all the way.
Abe is phenomenal. Abe is one of the best characters in the entire movie. Abe is so cool. I loved his design. It's very Shape of Water, which is Guillermo del Toro. I think he went with that design because of that.
I
And I,
think Abe. I think it's weird that Abe sometimes needs water to breathe, but sometimes doesn't. Like he has that contraption around his neck. Then there's multiple scenes where he's not wearing it, and it's like
well,
it's very inconsistent.
I think it's just because he can breathe oxygen for a certain amount of time, but when he's going longer periods of time,
He
when
needs
he
that
actually leaves
water.
the house, he leaves with the water.
And I mean that
That was
makes
something I
sense.
kind of noticed too, but I was trying to pay attention to when he did and didn't have it on, and that's kind
Yeah.
of what I've noticed. Like when he was around the house, he didn't wear his apparatus,
Hmm.
but when he left the house, he
It's
was
like
almost always wearing the
he
apparatus.
only wore that apparatus twice in the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's something that stuck out to me. I still love Abe as a character, but
Well, and like I love some of the things in the movie, like the original lines and stuff. Like there are things that go bump in the night, and we bump back. And I just love like seriously, Abe and his powers, like we were talking about Abe, his powers of like memory and being able to show memories and like him showing Hellboy the death of his dad and scenes like that are so amazing and the way it's shot is incredibly well done. Even though like Liz was a flat character, her explosions and the things that she did in the movie with like her powers was really cool and the
oh yeah.
flame effects were really, really cool.
Oh yeah, really cool.
And especially with her touching him and him being immune to fire and stuff, like making them like that kind of match made in heaven perfect
He's
fit.
he's immune to fire except the one time that he's not. And I guess it's not really fire. He's immune to heat. But then there's that point in the movie where his horns are really hot from getting hit by the train and he goes, "Ow, that's hot," basically.
Yeah.
It's like every other time he's around something hot, he's like, "Oh, I'm fireproof,
Well, and
baby."
I
Like,
almost wonder if he did that like as a comedic thing, not that he actually felt like it was hot.
well, it was very comedic, but if he the character was trying to be comedic, who is he being comedic for? There's no one else in that scene.
Well, okay, it's to the same point. Like, there's a lot of times, and this is me personally, so it's something maybe I just connect with this, and why I think it's okay. There's a lot of times like I'll bump something, or I'll nudge something and go, "Ow!" and she's like, "Oh, what happened?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I didn't even get hurt. I just got startled by it, and so I
Well,
said, ow."
I think that's just a reaction some people have.
Yeah.
Uh, but as far as the villains in the original,
Oh,
Rasputin is so cool.
Rasputin and that assassin dude. Oh
His
my
assassin
god.
character is so cool. I think it's cheesy, but I love it all at the same time whenever he's whipping around his swords and it's making it like that swing sound.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. He's having showmanship just to
Oh
have it.
yeah.
But the villains are really cool and seeing their character driven motives and
Well, and I loved him like bringing the corpse back to life too in the original and carrying that bag of bones with him and
yeah.
like all of his interactions with him and like some of the like the actual spells and stuff that Hellboy can do.
I love how the corpse is only the top half of the torso, so the corpse tells Hellboy, "If I had legs, I'd kick your ass." They're pretty great.
Yeah, it's just there's so many of those things that I just love. What was it? Oh yeah, I love that when like the director doesn't ever appreciate Hellboy or like Hellboy at all until he saves him. Like that was one of the things I was like, oh well, that's kind of a different change in the character there.
I do like seeing them connect over like smoking a cigar after Hellboy saves him at the
Yep.
end. It's like, nah, you don't light it with a lighter. You gotta do it with a wood match. It preserves the flavor.
Yep.
Which I don't know if that's a true thing.
It actually is.
Is it?
Yes.
I'm like that. I mean, I don't know, but uh, and then as far as the remake, like we talked about how we didn't really like the villains in that are really frustrating, or I don't know. There are parts where the movie kind of just feels too long, and
Yeah.
they don't know how to move people along in the movie. So what they do instead is have the person get knocked out or start walking, and then
Hmm.
randomly they're in a new place, or like they don't know how to solve a problem. So then suddenly Hellboy like gets teleported to another dimension, and then now he knows how to solve the problem.
Yeah, and
They don't
it's
know how to
weird
move it
too.
along.
They even like changed the location of everything in this remake for some reason. Like it was in New Jersey to begin with, and then they put it in Colorado
Yeah.
in the second one. And I was like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you making those changes? And they didn't give any purpose to why it would be in Colorado. And that was the thing that also bothered me too. It's like I get it with New York because there's probably a lot of things hiding in New York. That's why almost every superhero thing's always in New York, just because of the amount of population in a small, dense place. You're gonna have more demons and stuff to deal with than in Colorado in the mountains where there's no one around.
Oh no, Colorado has its demons.
I don't want to know.
Uh, yeah, and I think one thing I missed while I was watching the new movie, I really wish Abe was in the new movie.
I do.
And
They make him at the end. He's in
they
cutscene.
set it up at the end. You don't even see Abe himself. You just see his hand
Yeah.
touch a glass, like a piece of glass that he's in this like water tank. And I mean, I think they were trying to set up for a sequel, which I mean, props to them because they were confident enough in their movie to think, hey, we should set up a sequel.
Yeah.
But one thing that kind of bothered me about the whole sequel setup was I don't know why they had like two extra credit scenes. They
Yeah.
had two end credit scenes, and I'm like, why? And they were both really unnecessary and did not set up anything for a sequel. They were different scenes that just made no sense. They didn't really
Yeah.
fit.
Well, and there's one scene that is in both movies, almost identically in both movies, that I kind of want to talk about too.
Yeah,
There's the shot for shot of the origin scene that of Hellboy coming, like Rasputin getting Hellboy to come into the world or whatever, opening the
yeah.
portal. That scene is almost shot for shot the same for a while. And then all of a sudden, they bring in this character called the Lobster that they never bring back again. They never mention again. That's just so random, so out there. So, like, what the fuck?
I think the only reason for that character was to wink at the audience at the huge fanboys of the graphic novel will be like, it's the lobster. But even then, yeah, it did not make sense.
It didn't make sense. They pulled it out of nowhere. They never brought it back up again. I don't know if they were intending to bring it back for a sequel, if
I
that
mean,
was
he
just a setup
shows,
for it, but like it's so random in that scene. And
and then he shows up in the end credit scene.
oh, I didn't even see that in credit scene. I
Yeah,
don't think.
there's two. There's the one with Baba Yaga way after the credits, and then there's one in the middle of the end credits where it shows Hellboy is over the grave of his father, and suddenly the lobster shows up and starts talking to him and tells him to get back in the fight because there's more they got to do.
Oh,
And then the
interesting.
lobster walks off through the graveyard because it turns out he's dead and he was a ghost. So he walks through everything.
Speaking of other characters and stuff in the new one, I really loved I loved and hated Daniel Day Kim in this movie. I thought him having a British accent in the movie was awful, terrible. I think it was dumb. I don't know why they gave him that. It didn't matter where he was from. It didn't matter what accent he had. I didn't like that he wasn't speaking his normal voice. And there was times where he came out and started speaking his normal voice, especially when he's getting angry. But when he started turning into the cat, the transformation of the cat were awesome. The
That's where the
scenes,
CGI looked really
yeah,
good.
there's certain scenes where it was beautiful as hell, and like some of the like things with that, like them fighting the demons there, and him fighting alongside Hellboy, and
Well, I really liked his character. I
oh
thought
yeah,
that's one of those moments where the chemistry between Hellboy and that character were really well done. They played off each other well. It was a really cool character. And I also liked the design. I'm not sure what
oh
kind of
yeah,
creature he is. He's like a cheetah, but
he's a lycanthrope of a cheetah,
I,
or
I,
yeah,
I bet, yeah, like a lycanthrope.
yeah,
I told Dana while we were watching it, I was like, yeah, it's a were cheetah. Like,
yeah,
that's what I was
it's
saying.
actually that because like in a lot of the Dark Universe worlds, there's lycanthropes of every animal. There's
That makes
werebears,
sense.
there's wereboars, there's werewolves, there's whatever, weretigers.
There's a were.
And so all these things, and so I really actually appreciated that. And you're talking about like the dynamics between him and Hellboy, and like him wanting to kill Hellboy, but then deciding not to kill Hellboy and stuff, and that stuff was really good. I also even liked the connections between him and the medium,
Alice, yeah.
Alice. Yeah,
See, I liked all three of those characters together. I think had good chemistry.
yeah.
I think they were really cool characters.
I think they had a lot of things that meshed really well with the three of them, and I really wanted to see like when it starts going off and they're going to be doing some more stuff all with all three of them together. I want to see that. Like if they made a
That
sequel and it was just about them three doing stuff together, and they do some of the things with some of the jokes that don't land and do better writing and stuff, I
it'll
think
be
it could be a good movie.
well, like that end scene where it shows all three of them working together, and I know that's one of the parts that you might have been talking about with Hellboy's outfit because they all have a new
Yeah.
uniform. I liked the new uniforms. It's not classic Hellboy though, but that end scene with them working with each other to kill all the bad guys, and it's like
Mhm.
set to kickstart my heart.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was a really cool ending, and I love that song. But
Oh yeah. No, it's really really cool. Like there's some of the things in here that is just incredible.
it's unfortunate that good moments like those and good character interactions like those are so few and far between.
And they're drowned out by a lot of bad things and bad decisions and lines that don't land
It's
and
very
very
unfortunate.
dry
Yeah.
acting. Like one of the other things I say, this is probably actually my favorite line in the movie though. There's a moment where they tell Hellboy, they're like, they'll make a statue of you that is 2,000 feet tall, made of the bone of your enemies. He's like, wow, that's gonna take a lot of bones. And it's so dumb,
And
but it's like that one felt like an actual Hellboy line to
Yeah.
me. It didn't feel forced. Like a lot of the other ones felt like forced dad puns. And it felt like more like something David Harbour's character on Stranger Things would say more than Hellboy would say. And that's one of the things I really just feel like I do not think David Harbour is going to be like the next big actor or action star. I think he's good in Stranger Things in that role, but I do not know if he's going to outshine his role in that. Like I don't think
I
he.
I purely believe that David Harbour is a good actor. I think they should give him the benefit of the doubt. He does some things don't land. I truly agree, and I think I blame that more on the writing than David Harbour himself.
And that could be the
Some of
case.
the like I said earlier, the Hellboy stuff when he was yelling, sometimes didn't land well, and I didn't really enjoy that. I think David Harbour himself is a good actor, and I mean I am biased because I do love Stranger Things, but I think even other stuff I've seen him in, like in Black Widow, when he plays the Red
Oh
Guardian,
yeah, he was
I
good at
think he
that.
did a good job as Red
Yeah,
Guardian. Unfortunately, that's another.
it's another bland
It's
character that
another.
had.
Well, it's another movie role where he's a good actor stuck in mediocre writing.
Yeah,
So I think
and maybe
give
that's the
him a chance.
case.
I think
Well,
he
I'm
needs
not
to.
saying I'm not gonna ever give him a chance. It's just
Well,
one
I
of those
mean,
things.
and,
Yeah.
and I mean not you give him a
Oh
chance.
yeah,
I mean like Hollywood
for
give David
sure.
Harbour a chance. He.
But I
I
think
think
he
he's
needs to
good.
find
He needs to find
his
something like a
style and
niche.
his role, and I think he's just trying to do anything and everything and things that might interest him, but I don't think he's finding roles that match him very well. I think he's going to be one of those kind of typecast actors that's a certain kind of role.
Well, like the scenes where in the 2019 Hellboy where he wasn't doing the awkward yelling and stuff,
It was
I
pretty
thought he
good.
was really good. I thought he did a great job as the character. It's those few moments where the writing didn't work, and then also his delivery on the lines. And I know I keep coming back to the yelling, but there are some times
Oh
I'm like,
no,
can you
it's
just stop yelling?
seriously that like and I really just didn't like that throughout the entire movie, besides the end, it's all just fighting with his dad. There's no good moments ever before that. It never shows any touching moments with his dad. It's only arguments until the end of the movie where his dad's like, I've always loved you. I've always had faith in you. I always knew you were going to be good. I didn't think you were going to be the
You
king of the
didn't show it.
apocalypse. But yeah, that's exactly the point. You didn't hug him when he was a kid. You just show him any love or care. Like there was no actual like emotional connection I felt between most of the characters throughout most of this movie, besides with Alice, Hellboy, and the cheetah. Like those are the only characters I felt like any connection between each other. All the other characters just felt like characters in a movie, like or just extras or whatever. Like I don't even know the names of any of the characters in this movie. I don't even know the name of Daniel Day Kim's name character in this movie. I watched this movie 4 days ago. I can't tell you the name of most of the characters. I can tell you Alice, Hellboy, and Doctor Broom.
I'm gonna try to keep talking.
Like it's so bad. Like I say this to my wife a lot when talking about like movies and stuff that are good or bad. If I can't remember a single character's name after I get done watching a movie, it's a bad movie.
I'd agree with. I'd agree and disagree. Because sometimes there's movies where like you don't even remember names because they're really complicated names.
Well, yeah, like for
Uh,
me, like I don't remember a lot of the names in How to Train Your Dragon because they're just so weird.
I always get confused between who's Rough Nut and who's Tough Nut.
Well, they don't
Uh,
even necessarily even fully say it.
they did. Anyway, back to Hellboy. The Daniel Day Kim. He played Major Ben Daimo.
I would have never guessed that in a million years.
Anyway, I guess do you have any
Um,
other thoughts?
The other thing I would say is the soundtrack for a lot of different scenes and the new one just didn't match the tones of the scenes.
Yeah.
Some of them, like there were certain times where I was like, "Is this a Fast and the Furious soundtrack? Why are you having a Spanish upbeat song right after a bunch of people just got murdered? Why are you having
You mean you don't listen to upbeat songs after people get murdered? Like that's a thing.
Well, it just had dramatic tone shifts, and like there would be like some like really upbeat music going during the most dramatic thing, and it
Yeah.
felt so not there. And I think that's also where some of the disconnections
A lot
were.
of like tonality issues with scenes. It kind of fell off.
Yeah. Oh, I really also just didn't like how much the end battle and stuff in the new one. It just felt like they were doing too much. Like I have to stop her from being revived. Oh, we didn't stop her from being revived. Well, I have to stop her from getting this. Oh, okay. Well, for getting her blood. Oh, she already got that. Well, then I have to go save Alice. Oh, and then I have to go do this before it's too late again. And it's like, how many times do you get a before it's too late situation?
It's another point where like it seems like the writers didn't know how to move characters along, so it was like, let's just create more conflict for
And
them to solve.
the way they killed off the boar was almost reminiscent to me of the way they killed Scrappy Doo in the live action Scooby Doo movie.
Well,
It felt very Scrappy Doo. They kept on shrinking him down, and he was just like screaming and then popped him. And I'm like, oh my god, you
and
did Scrappy Doo again.
I think the way they killed the pig boar character was so unfortunate because, like I said, he's the only villain in the movie that actually has any backstory and character growth.
Yeah,
So to end him that way kind of felt like, well, you've served your purpose. Just give him the boot.
yeah,
Which, I mean, some villains do that, but I feel like he should have had a better finisher. I feel like Hellboy should have killed him.
yeah, for sure. So for me, I guess my personal stance on these movies, I think the original is way better than the remake. I think that any fan of Guillermo del Toro or of the Hellboy franchise should watch the original, buy the original. It's something that you need in your life. I think everyone would enjoy it. I think diehard fans of the comics and stuff might appreciate a lot of the stuff that the new one says that the original didn't, with bringing in his lineage, bringing in a lot of these other things. I do think tonality and a bunch of it has a lot of issues and a
Brings
lot
it
of
down.
different motivations in the remake that brings it down a little bit, but there is some really cool scenes in it still. There is some really cool cinematography. There is some really cool characters in it. I think it's worth a watch, but I do not think it's worth a buy.
I'd agree. I think the original is amazing. I love Ron Perlman, and the whole cast is so enjoyable. And I mean that movie, it's so good.
Hmm.
Uh, Even its sequel is really worth watching too. So
Oh, seriously.
I'd say buy the original, watch it, enjoy it, and just appreciate it for what it is. The 2019 one, I say watch it once.
Yeah.
It's I think worth watching once because there are some things to be enjoyed in this
Oh
movie,
yeah.
but there are also like I don't know, it's like a half and half for me. Part of me wants to say don't even bother, but I don't know. I say if you're interested, check it out. You might find something to enjoy in it.
Yeah, and I honestly like if it ever did get a sequel, it probably would be something that I still would watch. Just because I am interested to see if they could fix the things that they did wrong in this movie.
Mhm.
Because I do feel like even with the original, like I do feel like a lot of the things got better in the second one, the Golden Army.
That was a fun movie.
It was incredible, and I think a lot of the things that you're talking about with like Liz being a dry character was fixed in the sequel. I
Mhm.
think the interactions that he had with Abe were even better in the sequel. I think the moments that he had with the heart to heart moments and the violence and the actual fighting and choreography in the sequel were even better. So I think this one could also benefit from a sequel.
So what we're really saying is watch the original too.
Watch
And
both of the originals.
just have a good time.
Yes.
Uh, that's it for the Hellboy remake versus original or vice
Yes.
versa. Next week we're having another special episode of video game adaptation movie.
Yes.
This one was my pick, and we're going to be looking at Silent Hill. So join us for that next time.